What is going on, shrimp keepers? It's Rob with Flip Aquatics. Behind me, I have my wife Amanda. Shout out to Amanda of Flip Aquatics. She's now helping me and Jeff, and so now it's a big team effort. But today we're gonna do a shrimp Saturday, and today we're gonna talk about crystal reds and crystal blacks. Everything you need to know to not only breed them and care for them, but just keep them in your aquarium in general. And so hopefully it'll be an action-packed video with a ton of information. And since it's Shrimp Saturday, I don't know if you guys know this or not because we haven't done one in a long time, but we always do a shrimp special or a product special or something at the end. And so all those details will be down below, so make sure to check that out. But you guys enjoy the video, and I'll be back in a little bit.
Today we want to touch on three major points for keeping crystal shrimp. The first of which is water parameters, then tank setup, and lastly we'll talk about general care for keeping crystal shrimp. The most important parameter to worry about when worrying about water chemistry is pH. The reason pH is so important is because crystals tend to only breed in a pH of less than 7. We found that the perfect parameters are anywhere between 6.6 to 6.9 pH. Now granted, if you go a little bit one way or the other, you can probably still get away with breeding these beautiful shrimp. We currently keep all of our crystal red tanks at a pH of about 6.8, and that seems to be a pretty good number. Next, I want to talk about GH and KH. GH stands for general hardness, while KH stands for carbonate hardness. GH, we usually like to keep between 5 and 7, and this just stands for basically the hardness of the tank and how hard your water is. KH, standing for carbonate hardness, we try to keep this between 0 and 2. We found that crystals in general like a little bit of KH, but having too much of it makes it impossible to influence your pH and get it below 7. The more KH you have, the harder it is to buffer your water. Next is TDS, which stands for Total Dissolved Solids. TDS is a measurement that gets mixed up a lot. A lot of people confuse this for the only parameter that they need to be measuring. A lot of people only go by TDS and they think that that is a good measurement. Since TDS stands for Total Dissolved Solids, it means that we are measuring everything that is in the water, not just GH and not just KH. We specifically use TDS when remineralizing water. We use RO water and a product called Salty Shrimp GH and KH. We also use Salty Shrimp GH. You can get away with either in this scenario. We found that a TDS between 130 and 160 seems to work really well for our crystal shrimp. Now again, if you're going to make RO water, it's good to add remineralizer like Salty Shrimp to achieve that TDS between 130 and 160. Now if you're using regular tap water, the most important thing to do is test your KH and GH to find if those meet the parameters. Next is temperature. This is one that we get a lot of questions about. It seems that our magic temperature that seems to work the best for us is 72 degrees. Now we've also found that a range between 68 and 74 seems to be pretty good. Anything over 74, you start to have bacterial infections and other problems can arise. Anything less than 68 is a little too cold for these crystal shrimp, but it could work. Next, I want to talk about tank setup. As you can see right here, we have a huge Madden filter running, and so remember that as we talk about filtration. Filtration is one of those things that you do not have to go crazy with shrimp. Shrimp don't need very much filtration, just something good with a lot of biofilm and bacteria to grow on, and so that's why we use Madden filters. We actually make all of our own and we have them available on our website at www.flipaquatics.com. Now that's not a sales pitch, it's just to let you guys know. But Madden filters are by far the best filtration. And the reason why is because they take up a whole back of the aquarium or a whole side of an aquarium, depending on how you have the tank laid out. Now, by having that much surface area, it creates a constant grazing ground for shrimp, which makes it ideal for baby shrimp to feed on, adult shrimp to feed on, and all that good stuff. Plus, it's a very efficient filter when it comes to running costs. Now you could do your power filters like Aqua Clears or FX6s or something like that, but that is extremely overkill in this situation because shrimp do not produce much waste whatsoever. So having an overkill filter really won't do you any good. Matten filters or sponge filters both work very, very well. So that's what I have to say about filtration. Now lighting is a different story. Lighting, you can pretty much do whatever you want. There's no rhyme or reason for it. There used to be a myth going around that bright lights would kill shrimp. That is completely false. We have extremely bright lights on a lot of our shrimp tanks with very little cover, and they all do extremely well. So bright lights will not kill shrimp, rest assured. Now we use Fluval 2.0s. They're a planted tank light, and I do like them. They're definitely not my favorite light, but they seem to work, and that's what all these videos were taken with. Now, we found good success with many other lighting, so it's completely up to you when it comes to that. Now, substrate is a very, very important one. Now, you can even see in the video that you're watching now that we have Tupperware containers in all of our tanks. Now, the reason we use Tupperware containers is because of the type of substrate that we used, or gravel, for those of you that don't know what substrate is. The substrate that we use is either Brightwell or we use Fluval Shrimp Stratum. Both work great for crystals. Now Brightwell tends to buffer a little bit more. Now you're watching my wife. She was doing most of the video for us, so huge shout out to her for all the great video, and thank you for working so hard, Amanda. Now back to substrate. Brightwell tends to buffer a lot lower than Fluval Shrimp Stratum. So either way, you're going to have good results. But the reason we use what we call as a buffered substrate is that's what helps us bring down the pH in the tank, which we talked about this earlier, and it's extremely important to get the pH just right. So the reason we use the containers is because every 2 years the substrate will go bad. And with having the substrate go bad, you have to break down the whole tank and change the substrate out. Now if you have it in the containers, what we do is every year we change one of those containers out and put a new fresh soil back into the tank, or substrate or gravel or whatever you want to call it. That way we never have to worry about the tank not having enough buffering capacity to keep the pH where it needs to be. The next is decor, what we keep in all of our tanks. First of which, live plants, extremely important. It just creates a good overall healthy environment for the shrimp. So that is very important. We prefer moss and subwater tang, both of which provide huge surface areas with tons of grazing area, and it's just really good for shrimp. Leaves is the next one. We use Indian almond leaves in pretty much all of our tanks. It just creates another natural food source for shrimp to graze on. The next one is driftwood. We particularly like to use Malaysian driftwood, but there's a lot out there that would work. The reason we use driftwood is because, again, it creates surface area, hiding places, and in most of our tanks we don't want there to be algae on the glass. But if we have a piece of driftwood in the tank and algae grows on it, that's a win for everyone, especially the shrimp, because I know we're not going to get in there and scrub the driftwood. So that's why we use driftwood, leaves, and moss as our decor in all of our tanks. Lastly, I want to talk about care. Care is a very important topic, and there's a lot that goes into it, but I'll try to make it quick for us all. Food type is the first thing because that's the question we get the most. How much, what type, what do you feed? And here at Flip Aquatics, we feed 5 main foods. First of which is Shrimp King Complete, then we go on to Bacteria E, and then Shrimp King Mineral, Shrimp King Protein, and lastly, Beta Glucan. These are all products you can find on our website, or you can find them on Amazon or other different places. And they all work really well. You have my promise there. The next topic I want to talk about is water changes, and this has a lot to do with food type as well. So water changes, you really only have to do about 10% per month, tops. That's all you have to do. Just make sure you're topping off the tank with RO water, because if you didn't know this, as water evaporates from your aquarium, it's not taking the minerals with it. So topping it off with distilled water or RO water will keep the tank stable. Now 10% per month, that's good as long as you're feeding the appropriate amount. I would never feed more than they can consume in about an hour. So feed small and feed frequently. So about once per day, and take maybe the third day off. That seems to work really well. And lastly is siphoning the gravel. This is a question I get a lot from beginners. Especially in crystal tanks, you never have to siphon the gravel. Just let it go and everything will work out well, especially with changing the substrate out every 2 years. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a little bit of something. You guys make it a great day, and I will talk with you all soon.